Thank you, everybody. Please be seated. Okay, our next item is changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda at this time?
Yes, we have two. There is a special agenda, so we'd like to condense it into one agenda, add the special agenda item as item 9.3 and run the meetings concurrently.
Okay.
And then also item 6.1 can be pulled from the agenda, the swearing in of re-elected council member Adam Atkinson. He took care of that on Tuesday of this week, so it doesn't need to be done at the council meeting.
Any other changes, you guys? None? Anybody want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez,
Aye.
Councilman Vosberg,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Hedgecock,
Aye.
Mayor Horn.
Aye. Okay, next we have awards, presentations, appointments, or proclamations. Item number 1, we'll start out with certificate honoring Richard Hill for his service and representation of veterans, the Elks, the City of Coalinga, and the 2023 Rose Bowl Parade. And I believe Nathan will be presenting the certificate.
Thank you.
Invite Richard to meet him.
Richard, if you can come up to the podium, please.
Certificate of Recognition and Appreciation awarded to Richard Hill. The City of Coalinga is proud to present the Certificate of Appreciation to Richard Hill, honoring him for his service and representation of veterans, the Elks, the City of Coalinga, and his representation of the Coalinga at the 2023 Rose Bowl Parade. And then I had something written. I'm honored to be giving Richard Hill this certificate, honoring him for his service and representation of the veterans, the Elks, and the City of Coalinga, and the 2023 Rose Bowl Parade. Tonight, I want to thank Mr. Hill for his countless hours he has spent either serving the community or our country. While in the military, he served as a Marine Corps volunteer for the 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, 81st Mortars, serving in Vietnam, where he was wounded and later to be assigned as a sergeant of the honor, being placed on burial detail. His boots are now part of the Marines exhibit at the museum in Washington, D.C. While in service, Richard received 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star with a V for Valor, and several other medals as a part of his distinguished service in Vietnam. Today, he serves as the California-Hawaii Elks Association Central District Veterans Service Chairman. Richard is a graduate of West Hills College here in Coalinga, former Exalted Rule of the Elks. Richard has also owned businesses like Fat Jack's, Rick's Clutter to Cash, and Rick's Live Auction. Richard has also served on many commissions such as the Planning Commission, Merchants Association co-founder, Parks and Rec Board, Chamber Board, and is the current president of the Chamber of Commerce. Richard has spent much of his life giving back to the City of Coalinga, and today I'm happy to be here to present him with the certificate honoring the work he has done and continues to do for this community. And here's my pen.
All right. Well,
For
thank
you.
you. Thank you.
And thank you very much. And if you wanted to take a picture. And I appreciate it, Richard. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
Richard, would you like to say something? Richard, would you like to say something?
Well, it's always been part of my inner thing is to give back to when you have a good product, and the Coalinga has always been a good product for me to work with, and I'm always been proud to be a Marine or a veteran and to serve my country, and I'm going to continue to do that. And Elks as well. The Elks is one of the I can't say what a great organization the Elks are, because they do give back to our community. We have great leadership in the Elks. We got a Larry Torres here, who's one of the big wheels here. I got my wife, who's the first exalted ruler in Coalinga, female. I'm just honored that Nathan, being able to work with Nathan as well, that, you know, we're able to work together and continue to work together, hopefully with you guys in the city. And, wow, Jim, you look really good up there. You might want to shave.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, our next, item number 2, we've got the 2022 Police Officer of the Year award for honoring Brady Kaiser.
Good evening, council, mayor, city manager, staff, and community. I have the privilege tonight to not only announce, but also to provide a certificate to the 2022 Officer of the Year, Brady Kaiser, for doing an outstanding job. And I want just to read a little bio before I give him the certificate. Officer Kaiser has been with the agency since 2019 and was initially hired as a police safety dispatcher. In September of 2021, Officer Kaiser was sponsored by the police department and attended the State Center Regional Training Center Police Academy in Fresno. Upon successfully completing the academy, Officer Kaiser was appointed to the position of police officer and has been on patrol since March 2022. Since being on patrol, Officer Kaiser was assigned to the West Hills College as the campus safety officer. During his time in that position, Officer Kaiser was often called upon to assist with patrol duties, transport prisoners, cover dispatch shifts, handle vehicle maintenance issues, even taking vehicles to dealerships and shops out of town when necessary, all while making sure his duties and obligation to the college were met. This often led to 6 days work weeks for Officer Kaiser. Officer Kaiser is often the officer called to cover shifts on short notice and is always willing to come in to assist. Officer Kaiser is not afraid to go above and beyond with his investigations and will come in on his days off to work on them and to learn what he can to better himself and his skills as an officer. His certificate reads, "In recognition of your high standards and continued excellence in serving and protecting, and to the outstanding contribution you give every day to the entire community, congratulations, Officer Brady Kaiser." Thank you. You want to say some words, or you good? I cover.
I'll wait.
He said, no.
All right, I wasn't really prepared for this, but I want to thank the city and the Cleveland Police Department for sponsoring me in 2021. Second off, I want to thank all my peers and colleagues for getting me through this process. It's a long process, and I look forward to the years to come. Lastly, I want to thank the citizens of Coalinga, and I look forward to serving them for the next few years, or long term as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is 2.3, is 2022 Firefighter of the Year Award honoring Russell Banks.
Good evening, council, city manager, staff, and public. It is my honor to announce. All right, now he's up here. It is my honor to announce firefighter paramedic Russell Banks as the City of Coalinga Fire Department's first responder of the year for 2022. Russell has been with the department since June of 2019 and exemplifies what a Coalinga firefighter should be. Russell's dedication to the department is demonstrated consistently in his daily activities. Not a moment goes by where Russell is not doing something to make the department better, whether it's perfecting his own skills or helping others, volunteering for projects, or finding ways to serve the community. Russell is constantly busy in between calls, contributing to helping the department reach its fullest potential. Russell has taken it upon himself to become a CPR instructor to offer classes to the community. Internally, Russell is also an ACLS instructor so that our paramedics can recertify without having to travel into Fresno or other areas. Russell has taken an active role in all things related to EMS and has taken on additional responsibilities to alleviate part of the workload on the new EMS captain. He is always willing to help and has a passion for teaching others. He has recently become a Fresno County paramedic preceptor and will help train and evaluate future paramedics. In addition to his contributions to EMS division of the department, Russell is one of 6 fire line paramedics that is part of the single resource assigned to wildland fires. Russell is always available to go out on assignment or cover the station when the need arises. Russell has earned this award through a nomination by his peers. According to his peers, Russell is one of the hardest working firefighters in the department. He is referred to as the silent professional. He just comes to work and does his job. His dedication and professionalism are noticed and makes them all want to be better. He supports others to help them achieve their goals and support the goals and vision of the department. Everything he does serves to better himself, the department, or the fire service as a whole. Please join me in congratulating Russell Banks as the 2022 City of Coalinga Fire Department First Responder of the Year. And his certificate reads, "In recognition of your high standards and continuing excellence in fire protection and emergency medical assistance and to the outstanding contributions you give every day to the entire community, this award is presented to firefighter paramedic Russell Banks." Thank you, Chief. And then this is your copy. All right, you want to say anything?
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be called the silent professional. I just want to thank the department, my peers, Chief Dupuy, for giving me the opportunity to be part of the CPR program and to give me a chance to be a paramedic preceptor. I just want to thank my wife, Amy, for being she's a great support. She pretty much gives me permission to come to work and work those overtime shifts, so I appreciate that. But very honored for this award. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2.4, Fire Department Promotion Recognitions.
Justin, May, and Hein. So earlier this afternoon, we had our promotional ceremony and badge pinning over at the fire department, but we want to take the opportunity to introduce them to council as well as the community and put faces with names. So first up, we have probationary firefighter paramedic May Ong. May actually started in our EMS division, the non-safety side, and the goal of that division was to promote from within, and she's the first candidate to do so, so very proud of that. She's been an EMT for 7 years and a paramedic for 2. She's been with Coalinga for 1.5 years. And she's going to be assigned to B shift with Captain Long. Next up is engineer Stephen Hein. Hein has been in public safety for 12 years. He has been a paramedic for 5 years with Coalinga Fire for 3. And he will be assigned to the engineer on C shift with Captain Belize. And finally, thanks to council approving the administrative captain position, this is what caused the promotion. So we were able to have some movement, we were able to have some promotions, and Captain Milligan has been promoted to captain, and he will be, he started with Coalinga Fire in 2004, promoted to engineer in 2018. He is assigned to the new administrative captain position, where he will oversee the EMS division and will serve as the department's training officer. So I just wanted to introduce all 3. Please give a round of applause.
Would you guys like to come up and speak, even if it's brief? Would you like to say something?
Thank you, everyone. As Chief said, it was with your guys' help and everybody's foresight that we have this position available to us. I think it's going to do tremendous things for our department. It's really going to push us forward, and on behalf of all of us, we appreciate the opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to item 2.5, recognize Public Works and Utilities Departments for being accident-free for over 1 year. Manny Ramirez will be presenting it.
Sean, you want to meet him at the podium?
You be accepting it?
Yeah.
All right, this certificate is a recognition of Public Works and Utility Department. The City of Coalinga is proud to present this certificate of recognition to the Public Works and Utilities Department in recognition of being accident-free over 1 year. I'm very, very proud to present this award to the Public Works. As you guys seen the storm that we had, you know, our city was running great on the storms. You didn't see that much flooding around town. Other towns around, other cities had a lot of flooding. And I'm glad that we have this Public Works going on, the way they're working, the way the city's working with them. And I'm so happy to have this program with them. And we're gonna continue on building it up to get stronger, more efficient, and keep on going for more years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have citizens' comments. At this time, I'm going to read, this section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the city council on any item within the jurisdiction of the council. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern, identify themselves, and use the microphone. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes in accordance with the state open meeting laws. No actions will be taken tonight by the city council this evening, and all items will be referred to staff to follow up and a report. Citizens' comments submitted in writing to the city clerk must be sent in by 5 o'clock the evening of, no later, on the day of the city council meeting, shall be distributed to the city council and included in the record. However, they will not be read. Do we have any citizens' comments?
There's one written comment that's been provided to the council, and it will be emailed to the 2 council members that are participating via Zoom.
Okay. Let's move on to the next item, since there's none. So now we have public hearing. Item 4.1, adopt resolution number 4132, certifying an initial study and mitigated negative declaration with mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program for the construction segments 1, 2, 13, and 14 of the Coalinga Trails Master Plan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, staff is recommending approval of Resolution 4132, certifying the initial study and mitigated negative declaration for trail segments 1, 2, 13, and 14. The City of Coalinga pursued funding through the Active Transportation Program to fund the design and construction of segments 1, 2, 13, and 14 of the Coalinga Multi-Use Trail Master Plan. Staff received grant funds under the CMAQ grant program to cover costs related to CEQA, preliminary design, right-of-way, and construction. Implementation of the proposed project required preparation and approval of an initial study, mitigated negative declaration related to the California Environmental Quality Act, as this is considered a project under CEQA. We did provide copies of the initial study and the negative declaration, including the mitigation monitoring and reporting. And so the City of Coalinga is proposing to design, construction, and operation of portions of 4 segments, which is segment 1, part of segment 1, 2, 13, and 14 of the city's planned 8.8 mile perimeter trail and spur system identified in the city's master plan. Segment 1, I'm not sure, I don't have a graphic, but there is a graphic in the document where these locations are in terms of the segments. These are the segments along Phelps Avenue, basically a continuation from Post de Chanay and that segment out to the hospital, as well as a segment south of Los Gatos Creek, north of Walnut or in Maple. And then also the segments that are included are within the areas by the sports complex, basically connecting the Monterey segment, Monterey and Cambridge, and essentially connecting this all the way to the previous segments that are behind the old railroad right-of-way behind King Oil Tools and the school farm area. So this is the next step. Obviously, we've constructed some of our other segments 10 through 12. This is basically the process we have to go through in terms of looking at the environmental considerations, especially in certain sensitive areas that we're locating these trails. And so the document before you to approve basically analyzes all of the aspects of this project and creates mitigation related to whether it be biological. And so we have this monitoring program that we have to follow through. And so during construction, we'll follow those monitoring requirements, any kind of measures we have to take during construction. One thing to note, what's interesting is that after having the, not necessarily flooding, but the influx of water we received last Monday, we are analyzing one of the segments because some areas where the trail was going to go is no longer there. So we do have room. We analyze a large buffer, so it's not like we have a 12-foot area we analyzed. So we will be looking at that alternative route. It won't really change it. It just kind of identifies a higher point so we know that it doesn't wash out in future events. And so with that, I'm not going to go through excruciating detail as you can imagine through the reading this. It's not the most exciting of literature, but if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And this is a public hearing, Mayor, so we would need to open up the public hearing once we've answered any questions.
I have a couple of things. Like how you mentioned about when we get this severe weather, I know some of the trails that are right now done, they have a lot of rock, the gravel that they put on. Is there a way we could kind of prepare, which you already did on this, but for the cleanup and to keep it clean? I know some people ride their scooters there and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's in the works. We've been kind of playing catch up since the event in terms of identifying areas. There's been crews out trying to fix potholes at a rapid pace. Unfortunately, this amount of rain really does wreaks havoc on our roadway system as well. And so, as we start seeing those things, we'll be addressing those issues as well. So maintenance is definitely built into all of these.
Okay. The light fixtures, will they be added in these?
So what our goal is to really get these projects, for one, make them competitive in the grants. We're trying to, initial goal is to try to get the trail complete and then start going after other grants to go and put in additional features like lighting, benches, trash receptacles, those types of things. Now, if there's funding available just through our regular street funds, those are things that we can continue to add. I don't know if anybody noticed, but we did add some lighting along Monterey with the solar lights, similar to what's being put up at the wastewater treatment plant. They're kind of a temporary measure because there is a goal to put in like actual full street lights along that segment of Monterey. It just takes a lot of work to get that through PG&E. So that's something we're going to be looking at. But lighting in that similar fashion in areas that are not necessarily near roadways, we would be looking at potentially trying to install those and other amenities. And there are grant programs specifically for those types of amenities.
All right, thank you.
I have a few questions. So this is the trail that runs through Cambridge Street over near the one that's going to connect to Monterey Street, and then it'll also connect in front of Post de Chaney?
Yes.
Okay. So which ones of these, this is section 1, 2, 13, and 14, and I'm just curious, which one of these, I remember when these were designed that there was a whole slew of them, and so I'm just kind of asking, where is the one that goes back behind Sandalwood that would connect Sandalwood to the city of Coalinga?
So in cooperation with Caltrans, we found out that they were doing a maintenance project on Polk Street. So we actually have funding secured from Caltrans as part of our larger ATP and CMAQ project along Polk. That we're going to basically have a trail along, kind of set back off of Jane between Willow Springs and Merced.
Okay.
So that's going to create that connectivity to basically the Worthing Creek Bridge sidewalk work, and that'll connect into town. So there won't be a spur on the backside because it'll come along the frontage of Jane Avenue.
And I think more people want it on the front side anyways.
Yeah.
And then my other question is, on the side towards Post de Chaney, is there anything that's going to connect the people that live in the trailer parks to have them get the safe access to school?
Yes. So we have an application currently in for our active transportation program for Cycle 6.
Okay.
We have a segment that's going to basically link, and when you look at the map and in the document, there's the teal line and the red line. Basically, those two are going to connect along Gregory. We put in on our part of the scope on that project is to include the replacement of the bridge with a new engineered spanned bridge across the creek, as well as a trailhead at Gregory right by the trailer park, and then a crossing with rapid flashing beacons across Phelps from basically where the hospital is to Gregory, or I guess we call it Hannah or Cambridge area. And then it would tie in to segment 2.
All right.
So, and then there'll be basically connect 2, I don't know what segment number that is, and then there's another segment that goes along the old railroad right away back down to First Street. There'll be like a small little kind of roundabout for, you can either go northwest or you can go south on
Excellent.
the trail.
Thank you.
Would any citizens like to speak? If so, please come up to the lectern. Oh, we're open for public hearing, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Rocco Papetro. I live on Keck Lane. I'm here representing District 1. I live in District 1. And I, first of all, want to endorse the bike trails. I think it's a great idea, and it's working really great, knowing that stretch down Monterey. The first thing I have to say is I have to congratulate and thank the maintenance workers on Monterey Street. It is a mess, and actually today it looks much better. They were out there today. So one of the things that I wanted to chat about for a minute was lessons learned on that project and going forward. A couple of those things were is I really thought that the solar light project was a workaround PG&E because they looked fantastic, they worked great, and they were hooked up within a week's time. That was outstanding. The other thing is that I noticed that in the declaration or whatever it is right now, it shows 10 feet wide trails, and the one that's in there now is an 8 foot wide trail. I don't know if that's on purpose, but I do think that that's better than our 8 foot. That shows a 10 foot with I think a 2 foot apron of DG. So I am glad to see that. It's a little narrow when you're trying to get by dogs and people. The other one is that, as you've noticed lately, there's been some things out there around amongst the neighbors and the folks using that trail, is the dog waste and stuff on that trail. I do think that I understand, I compared it to the project in Keck Park where they put the bags and the posts and all that up, and was actually told, if it's accurate, that was an Eagle Scout program. It wasn't the Park and Rec that did that. So that would be a great project because I think it's warranted. And then to Sean's point, someday the trash receptacles, because there's people using them and then just dropping them on the trail. So it really doesn't do any good to do that either. So I think that's great. The last thing I want to talk about is, and Mr. Maris, you brought that up too, was the scheduled maintenance on that trail. The trail, the part of that trail that takes the most abuse is at the end of Cambridge and Monterey. Because the oil field traffic uses that, and they don't use the designated driveway, cut driveway. They just go over the entire path, so that thing's going to get broke down, and I don't know how to prevent that, short of putting some posts or delineators or something along that route. For a while, that road was closed off, and you can see the difference, but it is tearing that trail up already, and the gravel that gets brought across is just, on a bicycle, is more dangerous than riding on the street. So in closing, I'd just like to thank the city staff. They've done a good job. I mean, they've done a great job bringing that forward. It's been a long time in the works. I'm glad to see it finally coming, for real and get it down and make a circle. So thank you to the council. Thank you to staff for making that happen.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Okay, seeing none. Nothing else from council? Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll close this item and move on to, no, we need to vote on this one.
Yep.
What would you guys like to do?
I'll make a motion that we approve item number 4.1.
I'll second it.
Councilman Vosberg,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Hedgecock,
Aye.
Mayor Horn.
And I vote aye. Okay, next item is number 2, consideration and approval of a zoning text amendment and introducing, waiving the first reading of ordinance number 852, establishing regulations for the permitting of mobile food trucks in the city of Coalinga.
Thank you. Mayor and council, back in June of '22, council directed staff to begin working with the Planning Commission to develop a regulatory framework for permitting food trucks in the city of Coalinga, since the current regulations in place kind of prohibit the ability for food trucks to operate in the city. In July, city staff and the Planning Commission met to discuss setting a regulatory framework for permitting food trucks in the city of Coalinga. And then in September, staff presented a draft regulatory framework to the council regarding mobile food trucks that was developed by the Planning Commission, and the City Council voted to initiate the zoning text amendment to develop a formal ordinance to bring back for approval. So on January 10th, the Planning Commission approved Resolution 023P-001, recommending to the City Council approval of the zoning text amendment at their meeting tonight. Staff prepared an ordinance that develops a regulatory framework to permit and regulate mobile food trucks in the City of Coalinga. This ranges from updating the definitions of mobile food truck and mobile vendors to requirements on permits, permitted locations and zones, hours of operation, parking requirements, vehicle specification, noise, and various other operational standards. Staff did provide a copy, there's a copy of the ordinance in the staff report that's being recommended to the council for adoption. When the Planning Commission met on January 10th, they made some minor amendments to the draft that are being recommended to the City Council be adopted as part of the ordinance approval. The changes were related to requiring trash receptacles to support trash, recycling, and organic waste based on current state law. So you'll see those changes in the red on that document. With that, if you have questions or if you'd like to go through, the regulations, I'd be more than happy to. But the document is available. It's been available for review. It goes through the public noticing process. So if you do have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And again, this is a public hearing, Mayor.
Okay, council?
I have a couple questions. How hard is it going to be for the food trucks? Because I know some of them, just they get their business and they don't know about these regulations. How difficult is it going to put it on them to go through all this?
It's set up as and we kind of heard from discussions with council, also discussions with the Planning Commission, that we wanted to make it an easy application process. So they basically have to go through a temporary use permit. It's a similar permit that Save Mart has to go through to put their Christmas trees up in the parking lot. It's an administrative permit reviewed and approved by myself, and it can be a day or two. Typically with these, because depending on where they're going to locate, there may be some coordination with the fire department, police department, public works, those types of things. But for the most part, it'll be an administrative review. Nothing too far in depth where it requires public hearings and other types of actions.
So it won't be where, the individual has his food truck and he has to go out of business because it's too hard for them or anything like that.
Basically, all it is similar like a home occupation where, you make sure you meet all the criteria and the regulations and you maintain that. There's not going to be any issue.
Okay.
Is there any, like for instance, there's a food truck right now that I think posts up at, Coalinga Market. Would this affect them adversely?
We'd have to look in detail, but as far as I know, I don't think it would, because the way it's set up based on the parking lot, or if you're in an existing commercial businesses, making sure you're not using up, I think it's either 2 stalls or a certain square footage. I don't imagine that's going to be an issue. They will need to apply for a permit once this ordinance is in full effect, but I don't anticipate any kind of I don't anticipate having any major issues with their location now.
And what will the fee be for the permit?
I don't have that on hand in terms of what the fee is. It's whatever the temporary use permit fee is. I can look it up.
Is it like a daily rate, or will it be like a one-time fee?
A temporary use permit's a one-time application.
And how long will they be able to, like that place right there, I've seen, sometimes they come and stay for a week and sometimes they're only there for a couple days. How long would the use permit work for them? Would they have to get it for every day that they're there, or would they have to, how does that go?
Yes, so the way it's set up is that there's no limitation on how long they can stay there. We still want to it's still considered temporary in nature just because of the fact that we're not building or constructing a permanent facility, and the fact that they have to continue to maintain the regulations, making sure you don't have major concerns or issues, complaints, those types of things. But for the most part, they're not going to necessarily be limited to a certain time frame. But the temporary use permits, just recognizing that it still is temporary in nature. It's just a matter of being able to monitor those and make sure that if there's any issues, they can be removed if they cause any kind of nuisance abatement issues.
Thank you. I have a question. I know there's like sometimes people throw an event and they get a food truck. Would they have to get a permit?
So we built in exceptions for private events, and basically says that food truck temporary use permit is not required, although a business license is, for the food truck operating for a one-day event or party located either on site of the event or in public right-of-way with no retail sales. So if, like, say for instance, you hire somebody for even a birthday party, there's exceptions to the fact that if you wanted to have a birthday party at your house and you wanted to have a food truck come and everyone that came to your party could just go out and get whatever food's being sold, that's going to be permitted for a single day event. And you wouldn't need to get a temporary use permit. It'd be exempt from that. But the food truck operator has to get a business license. So anyone that operates in the city will have to have a business license, but the person hosting the event won't have to get a temporary use permit. Neither will the operator.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's same thing for fundraisers. So there's exceptions regarding fundraisers at the schools, the college, parks, or any public property may be permitted without a temporary use permit. This includes by local organizations and nonprofits, so long as they do not last more than one day and the food truck vendor has obtained a business license.
Now, my question, over here on 6th and Elm, the city parking lot, are they still authorized to use that facility for the food trucks? And is the conditions exactly the same as it were any other parking lot?
We didn't include, we put, because basically they're permitted in all industrial and commercial zones with the exception of residential zones, which is for those, if you have a private party. In terms of the food trucks may be permitted in vacant lots, at existing businesses, and in parking lots. So I think with that language, with this discussion going on right now, that could be the intent of that, where the parking lot could be permitted. We still have a policy on the record basically saying that folks can use the parking lots, so I don't think it's a problem. I think it's just a matter of the requirements that triggers on a city property compared to on a basically a piece of commercial property that a private citizen owns.
Right, and that would be mainly liability, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Marissa probably has a little more info on that, but yeah, I know there's liability insurance that's required.
Any citizens have any questions? Oh, we'll open
Sean?
this public hearing again for item number 2, 4.2. Is there any citizens that would like to speak on this item?
Hey, Sean. The price is $150.
What's 150?
The fee. Yep.
Okay. Oh, that was Larry. God, I was looking at these guys up here. But their mouths weren't moving, so what's going on here? Thanks, Larry. It's 150 today, by the way, but it will go up probably like next month because, as you know, all of our fees go up based on CPI. So they'll probably go up a little bit, but it'll small percentages.
Is it gonna, like, since it's gonna go up in the future, is it gonna keep on going up or going up, going up?
Typically, the way that our fees are set up is they do go up by CPI annually.
So just to clarify on that, though, council does approve that, and council could choose not to approve the CPI increase, correct?
Correct. So council previously approved an item saying that each year you would increase the rates based on CPI, but those do come to you, and so it should be one of the meetings in February where it comes to you to increase the rates based on CPI.
Thank you.
What was the date that this was brought forward originally?
Which one?
This item right here with the food trucks, the original approval.
The original approval. What original approval?
When
I think
when-
we've honestly been working on this since back when Nathan was on the council the first time.
that's what I was
We've
asking,
been
if
working
it
on
was-
some form
if
of
it
this
was
for a
something recent or
long
not.
time.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been, I went, when I'm going back in my files, looking at old drafts, and we're probably back in like 2014. So there's been a lot of push on this, but we've never gotten to the finish line, so I think we're getting there.
So we have like a taco throwdown, they're all gonna have to get permits and everything.
Not if you can convince the chamber to host it.
Okay, at this time, what would council like to do? Just a discussion, or is this a voting item, correct? Yes. You guys like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance.
Oh, okay. At this time, we're going to close public hearing, sorry. Okay, now, council, what would you guys like to do?
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance.
I'll second.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Vosberg,
Aye.
Councilman Hedgecock,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez,
I'm gonna say nay, just because I wanna go and talk to them. I wanna make sure that I just don't want them to be scared and cancel their business, because they might think that, you know, we're kind of pushing them away or something like that. I just wanna make sure that they're comfortable, where they understand, because I know some of them don't understand English, and I'd rather make sure that they understand what we're gonna vote on.
Mayor Horn.
And I vote aye. Okay, next item is 5, consent calendar. We have 9 items to discuss. Is there any items that council would like to pull?
Go ahead. So I'm only gonna need brief explanations on these, so don't worry. Items 3, 5, 7, and 8.
Okay, next we've got, let's start with item number 3.
Did you have a specific question, Councilman Vosberg, or did you want an overview?
No, I was just wondering, one, I don't see any contractors in the audience, but I did want to, let them know that this was changing. And then 2, ask if there's any significant changes that we should note on the record for the building codes.
We could come back and provide you some of those updates in terms of what some of the major changes are. I can consult with the building department. As we know, the adoption of the building code is kind of by reference. We don't necessarily, there's opportunities to look at changes, but really with the state of California, they pretty much, you're just supposed to adopt it by reference. And so it's kind of an every 3-year thing that we basically adopt.
So we really don't have much control over this?
Not really,
Okay,
no.
all right, no problem. I'm good.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item 5. I'll actually read these out for you. It's adoption resolution number 4135, authorizing emergency repairs to East Polk Street between East Glen and South 6th Street at the intersection of Forest and East Polk in accordance with California Public Contract Code.
So on that one, I'm just curious of what we're doing.
So basically, under so we had the issue at Polk Street, and we've got some substantial improvements that we have to do. And because Polk is closed, we're making the findings that we need to get this reopened as soon as possible. in terms of the roadway. The roadway's been undermined, so there's issues with, even though the road looks like you might be able to drive on it, there's a pretty large hole that's completely gone from one side of the road to the other. And so in working with Larry and trying to determine how we can move this quicker, the emergency authorization allows staff or a designee, myself or Barissa, to proceed forward with getting the work completed using a contractor, our own guys, but we don't have to go through the normal bidding process. So we can actually expedite this based on it being determined to be an emergency to get this thing repaired. So in order to get the roadway open, we're requesting authorization to move forward with this so we can basically talk to contractors next week.
All right, thanks.
Okay, next we move on to item number 7, reject claim for damages. Council.
So I always like to hear these stories. That's why I pulled this one. So if you could fill us in.
Yes, so the item, sorry, my internet is very slow, so it won't open the agenda item. So we did receive a claim from an individual who we received it on December 7th. The claim alleges that the claimant was riding his bicycle on the sidewalk when he encountered a dangerous condition of a lifted sidewalk, causing him to fall and sustain bodily injuries. The city had no knowledge of the dangerous situation in advance, so in order for the city to have liability, we had to be aware of the situation and have not addressed it, and we were not aware of it at that time prior to the injury. So the recommendation is to reject the claim, and any type of dangerous situation that the city becomes aware of, we take care of in a timely manner.
So I'm guessing that's being fixed then.
Correct. I believe it already has been, but if it's not, it's in the process.
All right, thanks.
And this is a good time to point out we have an app for the citizens to turn in issues like this. We need to make sure it's updated with current information and try to push it out regularly so our citizens can help make our community better and not rely on government or other people. Everybody needs to take ownership of the city.
That is correct. We do have an app, so if you see dangerous conditions, if you see a pothole or anything like that that needs to be filled in, a sidewalk that's raised, a fallen tree, anything that the city should be taking care of, you can take a picture, upload it to the app. You can put in a brief description. It does geotag your location. And so you don't have to put in an address. You can click where you're at, and the app sends it to the appropriate party. So if you list it as a code enforcement complaint, it'll go to code enforcement. If you list it as like a pothole, it'll go to Public Works, and the app automatically sends it to these individuals.
And citizens can find the apps either on Google App Store or Apple App Store as well to find these applications right here.
Yeah, just search Coalinga. You should be able to find it.
Okay,
It looks
next,
to be a fairly good app, but it is out of date, or people need to update it.
I think unfortunately, I think we have an old app from City Sourced that's still on the Play Store, and I think that's confusing people, because if you try and load that app, I understand what you're saying, Councilman Hedgecock, because when you try and load that app, it gives you information that's old. So maybe we want to request to have that removed.
Yeah, I can have, Larry's kind of heading up the app through, I think it's through Civic Plus now, and he might.
It's My Civic.
My Civic.
But yeah.
and yes, I did discuss this with Larry about 2 weeks ago about updating the app or possibly adding another part to the app. So it's a lot easier for all the citizens.
Yeah, I was just meaning if we could get the City Sourced one removed, because it's actually a whole nother app that has nothing to do with us as of now, since we moved over. And I think that's kind of what's confusing people, is that there's 2 apps on there. And I think the City Sourced one even shows up first in certain instances, maybe by name.
No, I was just referring to it's out of date. It's got a city council from quite a few years ago, which means it hasn't been updated in quite a long time.
Okay, anything else? Anything else from Councilman Atkinson and Councilman Hitchcock?
I'm
Okay,
good.
we'll move on to item number 8.
Okay, so I just want a general update on this. Is this the solar that's going in at the water location? Is that what this is for?
Yes. So the update to the project development agreement with Johnson Controls is basically to kind of move us in the direction of an ownership model rather than the power purchase agreement model. And so there is some changing, and with the new changes in the NEM program, which is the net metering program that's going to be expiring in April, this is basically allowing us to expedite that process and get our what they call interconnection agreements in place. So once you get the interconnect agreement in place with PG&E, you still have a couple years to develop out that site. So we're working out the property ownership issues. We're moving forward. They're starting their engineering so we have an application that we can get to PG&E. And then on a side note, we're actually working on, we just had a conversation with Johnson Controls about possibly doing this at the wastewater plant as well and doing a smaller facility on site to be able to offset the cost there as well. So we may be coming back to the council with a project development agreement or even just authorization to move forward with that. But with this, we're moving forward with engineering. We're moving forward with getting that project ready to submit the interconnect agreement with PG&E.
And is this the money coming from the 2020 water bond?
No, this would be coming from basically just the enterprise fund, from the water
But I mean,
fund.
once the project is scoped out and ready to go, the whole project as a whole is like $8 million, right?
Yeah, we'd have to look at what the current estimate is, but basically it would be through its own issuance. Not a bond issuance, it could be a financing, but it's going to be probably normal financing to be able to fund it through the, for the project itself. So it'll be a separate financing for this.
So this wasn't the one that was included in the 2020 bond?
No, we never included the solar project in the bond.
Okay.
No, so it was anticipated to be a separate issuance for that particular project, but because of some of the nuances, the issues with the property ownership, we didn't proceed forward with that because we wanted to make sure when we issued the bond, we at least had a good concrete cost estimate. And as we know, costs have gone up quite a bit since then. So we'll just issue a separate financing for the solar project, and we'll be coming back to the council once we kind of see what that looks like. Because of the tax credits that are involved from the Inflation Reduction Act, there's huge credits that come directly back to the city to make these cost effective and actually save the city money on an annual basis, on top of the debt service payment that you have to make on an annual basis for the financing.
Well, the reason I ask is because I was looking over the council meeting where the council approved moving forward with the bond, and the $8 million, I believe, was on there as one of the expenses for that bond.
It was never issued. We never actually issued it. There was some discussion of it, but we never actually issued that bond. We never actually issued the bonds for that.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Problem.
Okay, at this time, there's no more items. Do we have an approval for the minutes for the consent calendar at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Sorry, you're approving the entire consent calendar,
Yes,
correct?
the entire consent calendar. Sorry, the entire consent calendar is red. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and entire consent calendar.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez,
Aye.
Councilman Vosberg,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Hedgecock. Did he say aye? Okay. Mayor Horn.
And I vote aye. Okay, next item we got is number 6, ordinance, presentation, discussion, and potential action items. We have one item, and that is discussion, direction, and potential action related to 2022-2023 water year, water conservation efforts, including revisiting the current water restrictions.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This was a future agenda item requested by Councilman Ramirez a couple meetings ago. And this just basically, at this point, staff has no recommendation at this time. Currently, no major updates on the water situation. Staff did have a meeting with USBR earlier this week, but there was nothing to really report in terms of other than just a little bit of optimism. But there's, we're still in this this timeline where we just don't know exactly what next water year is going to look like. But as of right now, we're looking at just basically status quo. But this item here gives the opportunity for the council to kind of look at the existing restrictions and then any discussion or changes you guys would like to make to it. So at that, I'll leave it with you, Councilman Ramirez, and in the staff report, it kind of identifies all of the current restrictions that are in place right now.
Yeah, I just, I think it was spoken, I wanted to see if we could just, everything the same, but just like, water on Mondays. I think we already had a time, right?
Yeah, we're currently 1 day a week. The only restriction, 1 day a week watering, front and back. The only restriction is that you still can't water your front lawns.
And
That's the current,
and during rain, right?
which has always been in effect.
Okay, all right.
Any measurable rain, you're not supposed to rain it, water within, I think, 24 to 48 hours.
Sean, do you have any projections on how we are with our water situation right now as far as our current water year and how we're going to end it?
Yes, so currently, and I was pulling up my email because I knew I was going to ask that question, and I don't want to get all I want to get the numbers correct, but I will look up what I just sent off. Hold on one second, guys. So currently, we're looking at about, and I think it's 47 acre foot. Moving into January, what we could potentially have as a surplus based on our 3766 number of total water for the water year. And as we know, the water year ends on February 28th. And I apologize, I'm trying to get this here we go, got it. So the 3677 acre foot is the total allocation. That's including the purchase of the water from PID, which is the Patterson Irrigation District. We assumed about a 5% reduction in December, January, and February based on some of the measures and seeing trends. So instead of 7.1 acre foot per day in December, we saw about 6.4 acre foot of water being used daily in the month of December. So if we carry that forward through January and February, we'll have about 47 acre foot of unused water at the end of the water year. However, it could change based on any changes, any scenarios that may, if we see a trend of 8 acre foot a day, then that 47 can go away really quickly, especially in 2 months. So certainly, as the rain has helped, we're basically kind of looking at, we don't know at the end of January until we have January's numbers. We don't know exactly where we're going to land. So obviously December was slightly lower than what we expected or we anticipated, but we don't know if January will change. We've had a lot of rain in January up until basically even today it rained. So, it's one of those things where we just don't know exactly what's going to happen. Our margin's pretty narrow with 47 acre foot, and as we know, it's very expensive water. And so it's one of those things where, at this point, I think that, we're going to be in relatively good shape, but we don't want folks to start turning on sprinklers because of these margins. Because if we start seeing higher than 7, 8 acre foot a day, then that 47, that margin is going to get really small in a 2-month period.
Now, Sean, let's assume that we end the water year with a 47 acre foot surplus. With that surplus and our contract with Patterson, does our contract say that with Patterson, we get that water no matter what? Did we pay for all of that water? Is that water ours? So in other words, I'm asking, is that can get rolled over into the next year, or do we get a refund on that water?
We won't get a refund on the water. Once we purchased it, we purchased it. That's why we had to really get as close as we could in terms of what we were buying. We didn't want to go, let's buy 1,000 based on how expensive it was. We wanted to be as close as possible to where we thought we would land at the end of the year. And I think after buying 600 acre foot and only being potentially 47 on that margin, I feel like that's pretty close. And we use that water first. So we use the PID water first. And then we have the Bureau water, which is the public health and safety water. That's going to be the remainder. So we want to make sure we use all of that expensive water, because if you try to sell it, you're not going to recapture all those costs. And so there's opportunities that we're gonna look at, but it's such a small amount of water, it may not be, you know, we're not sure exactly what will happen with that water at the end of the year.
So I guess what I'm asking is when our new water allotment comes out, either next month or in March, when the new water year begins, if we have an extra 47 acre feet of water, can that be added on to whatever our water allotment is going to be?
We are going to beg USBR for it if we in fact ultimately need it, because
I mean, we paid for it, so how
well,
can they take it away from us?
Because we've already called on all the PID water already, and so that water is being used first. So we want to make sure we use that water first. The public health and safety water is water. Basically, it's like non-contracted water. So essentially, it's water that they had to give us just for public health and safety based on that calculation. So it's not like, so if we got, say, contracted water, we can carry that. Typically, you can try and carry that over. But with public health and safety, it's kind of the use it or lose it kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. So are they going to try and say that we didn't use the public health and safety, instead we used the contracted water?
Yeah, and Dan and I are working on that to kind of see how the not accounting, but the accounting for that water looks like, where perhaps the PID water ends at the end of the year rather than the USBR water. So maybe we'll try to use all the USBR water. So we're going to have a conversation with them to see if what works best for the city in terms of what needs to be left over, whether it be PID water or the USBR water.
Okay. Well, I think if they try and take it away from us, we should have a serious talk with our congressman about letting us keep that water, or a letter sent to him.
How much was that water purchase per acre foot?
$18.50
Times 47, if that's what we would end with?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it'd be just shy under $75,000. Would we actually lose that?
No, the state paid $1.2 million for that water, essentially. And
have we even received the grant from that yet?
We signed the contracts today, actually. What? Yesterday. Yeah.
So, I just wanted to make a couple statements about this. People are already watering. Maybe not right now when it's raining. I mean, maybe someone is, but I walked my entire district, and what I found was a huge equity gap in watering. I found that the people that live in, and I hate that word. I don't like that word at all. I'm an equal guy, not an equity guy, but it makes sense here, because if you look in my neighborhood, and if you look in Stallion Springs, and if you look in the wine district, especially in the wine district, the people over there, they're not going to stop watering. They've just told me straight up, we're not. We don't care how much it costs. We put in these big lawns. We're going to do it. We're going to water. We don't care. It doesn't matter to them. And I believe them. I do. I believe them. They make a lot of money, those folks over there. But then you go over to East Pleasant Street and East Houston Street, where the people that don't have a lot of money, and those people can't afford to water because the amount the bill is going to be. And those people are afraid they're actually going to get in trouble, whereas the other people aren't. And so then you have people that are watering their backyards and their front yards, and then you're telling the poor people they can't even water their front yards. I don't think that's fair. I've never thought that was fair. And I don't even understand the whole deal. I understand, like, hey, let's let people water the backyard because we're not going to look over their fence, but I think that watering the backyard is probably using more water than watering the front yard. I would love to see us be allowed to water 1 day a week on a Monday, and that includes the front yard. I think a lot of, no, he just said, no, it only doesn't include the front yard. And I know that's what your intent was to include the front yard.
It includes the front yard, not the front lawn.
Yeah. Well, so the lawn. So like you can't.
Trees and shrubs.
Right, so you can't do but in the backyard, they can water their grass. So that's my whole thing is like, hey, people are let me change this. People are watering their front grass, and people are watering their back grass, and then other people aren't being allowed to water their front grass. And we may have 47 acre feet that we made. Who knows how this is going to go. And I'm not trying to put the city in water hawk, but I think that if we can't add on to, if we can't make a positive change for the public, then I would say that we table this item until Sean knows more data about how close we're gonna get to this water thing. That way that we aren't passing something that's gonna be a negative to the public again, and we just table it, and then we hope to come back and provide better news. Because I don't wanna vote for something that's gonna be taking stuff away. It's already taken away. I don't wanna add injury to the insult already. That's just,
From what I understand, it's not taking it away. It's just extending this out until we know exactly how much water we're gonna have. And yeah, you're right. Some people water and they're getting fined. But we can't, we need to leave it the same as we already have it until we know how much we're gonna have for next year.
Do we still have habitual users are they still getting fined for going over their usage?
So they don't get fined for going over their usage because we don't have tiered rates where you pay more for the amount that you use. They get citations and fines if they are caught watering their front grass. So we have to physically see it. Sometimes people will call and say, you know, this house has a green front lawn, but we don't have an ordinance that says you can't truck in water from somewhere else. So we can't give someone a citation for having a green lawn. We can give them a citation for seeing their sprinklers on and running. So we have several. There's a monthly report that our code enforcement officer does. It's usually the first meeting of each month for the council meeting, and it'll say exactly how many citations have been issued, and then she breaks it down to explain if it was for watering or it was for vehicle nuisances, and so you can see that on that report, exactly how many are being fined.
so my point is that we actually don't need to do anything because the ordinance that we have in place does not have an expiration date. And that's my point of tabling this item.
It's just a resolution, so it
right,
can be
this
changed.
resolution, there's nothing, we don't need to do this, and we're gonna keep the same thing that we got right now. There's nothing, I'm just saying, like, if we aren't changing anything, we'd just be voting for just to continue the same thing, and there's really no need to do that. We could just table the item and then bring it back rather than vote on it, and that's just my point.
And it's staff's plan to bring back basically an update at every council meeting as we lead up to March. So as we find out what's going on with our allocation. So we can bring back a similar item each meeting. So the resolution's on the table to be discussed if in fact the council decides they want to make any changes. But as of right now, we don't have any data for January yet. And as we get more, we can let you know, give you updates on water use as well as what we're hearing from the Bureau in terms of potential water allocation.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that a lot of times, and I don't know, maybe Mario can chime in on this, but when you make an action and you do something, sometimes trying to bring things back actually requires that stuff changes rather than council just being able to make a decision. And so, like, if you have something on the table and you go ahead and vote on it, then trying to change it back sometimes is more difficult than, hey, just keeping it tabled and then voting on it at the time, because I think there's a time limit on some things in a year, even on bringing stuff back. And so if there was information from staff that brought in, that item could be obviously brought back and changed, but without that information, I don't think it's able to be re-voted on. But if we keep it open on the table, we are able to vote on that at any point in time, as long as it keeps being coming back. That's the reasoning behind this.
So we should have our actual numbers by the beginning of March, correct?
That's our hope.
So if they're wanting to table it for now, would it be smart to table it to the first meeting in March? So that way we can discuss, we actually have the numbers in front of us?
Yeah, totally up to the council if you want to wait till March. Because then we'll know, we should hopefully know the allocation. It's hit or miss sometimes when we get that letter.
I would like you to keep bringing the information back every meeting so we can, even if it's just a minute, that you go over it with everybody. And that way the public is informed about what's going on too.
We can do that.
Yeah. So what you guys want to do, you want to table it and at least discuss a little bit of it each meeting if there's any changes? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes. If you can come up, Scott, to the podium.
Scott Netherton, 424 College Avenue. Can we not use the water, I don't know what it's called, not the water we bought first, use the other first? Because if we bought it, it's ours. Let's use what we're allocated by the state, and when that runs out, then use the water that we paid money for, because we won't lose that, right? Because we've already paid for it.
We have to put it somewhere. We can't just continue to use it. We'd have to put it somewhere to use for that year.
Okay.
Yeah, right, as of right now, we've already used our allocated, and we've
We
used our,
said we haven't used our allocated yet. We've been using the water we paid for first.
yes.
So we're leaving the allocated till we run out of the paid for. But I'm wondering, can we use the allocated first, and then whatever we paid for, that can't be rolled over because we paid for it
Yeah, we can.
separately? I'm
And,
just
and
wondering.
that's what we're doing. We're looking into that right
Okay.
now to see what we can do with it.
Okay.
Okay, I guess the consensus is, what would you guys like to do, Councilman Atkinson and Councilman Hitchcock? Would you guys like to table it and discuss it each meeting, if there's any changes, until the first meeting in March?
That's fine. I just want us to pay attention to what our projections are going to be. That's all. That's really what my worry is. So tabling this is fine.
I agree.
Okay, next, we're gonna move on to item number 7, announcements. City Manager, you have any announcements?
I do. I just wanted to make sure the public is aware that we do have applications right now for the gas assistance program. So if you need help paying your city gas bill, it only covers the gas portion on your bill. And you can apply once per year for the gas portion on 1 month's worth of the bill. So that's your gas consumption and the gas flat rate. And those applications are available in English and Spanish in City Hall. You can pick those up. The bill for the month of December, I believe the payment due date is January 25th. So that's coming up. So if you want to get your December gas paid, make sure you come in Monday of next week to get that application in. And then the West Side Family Preservation Center that's there in the old courthouse on the corner next to the PD, they also still have funding available for utility assistance. And that is not just for the gas portion. You can use that for your city bill, you can use that for PG&E, but it does only apply to renters, it doesn't apply to homeowners. And that program is available if anybody needs assistance there. And that's all I have.
Okay, next is council members' announcements and reports. Do you have any?
I'd just like to announce that I'm a little jealous of Councilman Hedgecock and that he's in a part of the country that has a Whataburger.
Anything else?
Yeah. You got some? You want to go? Oh, okay.
Okay, Councilman Vosberg.
All right. I just want to make an announcement that I have been and will continue touring parts of the city infrastructure. I toured the water department where I got to basically see how the water comes into Coalinga and got to view the processes of how it works, and got to talk to city staff out there and understand a little bit more about how the water process goes and what all it takes to make clean water for the citizens. And then I did the fire department, was able to see the changes that they made over the past 4 years, discuss how the public safety works regarding our vehicles, manpower, and different funding mechanisms that might be coming available, along with the IGT funds and whatnot. Today I've toured City Hall, the inner sanctum, and Marissa was nice enough to give me a tour and let me talk to the staff and put some names and faces to the positions that they do, and kind of ask them questions about how they're doing, and I look forward to continuing those conversations. I look forward to going into the public works area, and then also to the PD, and then continuing on from those. And so I appreciate it to the city staff. Thank you.
Councilman Ramirez?
I just want to applaud Public Works, Fire Department, PD. I mean, we started out already with a busy year, and hopefully it could set some of the citizens in our community's minds why we purchased this fire truck, why we're purchasing these new equipment, updated equipments. It's not just wasting money, from the city. It's an importance that does save lives, and it was a great year. I know it's going to be another great year. I can't applaud too much, so much, because it's just, I'm so grateful for them. Having that rescue, thank you to the chief. 20 minutes later, the boat arrived. If it wasn't for our fire truck, who knows what would have happened. So I'm glad. Thank you for your staff. Thank you for the police department. I have been talking to our district congressman, assembly individuals about the water, about little situations like that. They've been contacting me also about any damages the storms caused. So I've been really, really in contact with them. Also with Fresno County, making sure that 198 gets fixed and that doesn't delay as months as they're projecting. So we're working on that, and I'm just happy that we started off on a year like that, and we have the supplies and the equipment to do it.
And for now, I have no announcements. We'll move on to future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items from council?
I have a few. I want to bring a resolution that places distance requirements on smoke shops from schools and future school locations. That's one item. I want to bring back the committees for the transparency to the public and I want to add a committee on water, and I want to add a committee on the animal control. So, because kind of right now, when we were doing the committees, we didn't meet very often, but the public safety, I think, did animal control, and I think that animal control should stand by itself. And then I'd like to ask if the council would approve if maybe we could have Marissa schedule some team building, put it out like a few months, that way it can get a little bit warmer, and that way we can, and make it a time that we could all attend. That's all I have.
Councilman Atkinson?
Yeah, I'd like to bring an update on the animal control building that we purchased and where we're at on it, and I would like it to be in the discussion and not the consent.
Anything else? Councilman Hitchcock?
Yeah, I was talking about we need to discuss how the city can make repairs without having to wait on approval from the council when there's emergency repairs like that blown out line on Polk Street. Because waiting months to fix a road and open it doesn't help the city out a bit.
Okay, and I have a couple. I'd like to bring back any information that was getting for the new water meters, the Bluetooth readable, if we've gotten any more information on possibly purchasing some more for some of the citizens. Also, for the fire department, I'd like to get a cost for their exhaust system for indoors. I guess they weren't able to get grants, so we're trying to find other options so we can get the city of Coalinga and the fire department in compliance with EPA, the Air Board. Another one, I'd like to get a cost on possibly putting the cameras back in the chambers. The next item is cost options for either leasing 3 more or purchasing 3 more new patrol cars. Okay, and then the last one is, like to do another future agenda item for public censure for Councilman Atkinson for failure to submit residency documents on time, as per state regulation. And that's it. Anything else? Okay. Okay, next, we're gonna move on to closed session. We've got 3 items. The third one is the special item from the second sheet that we've gotten. Closed session report, closed session, a closed or executive session of the city council, successor agency, or public finance authority may be held as required for items as follows: personal matters, labor negotiations, security matters, providing instruction to real property negotiators, legal counsel regarding pending litigation and protection of records exempt from public disclosure. Closed session will be held in the administration building at this address. Any announcements or discussions will be held at the same location following closed session. Okay, at this time, we're going to adjourn the meeting until February 2nd, 6 o'clock Thursday. Thank you.